Hello. Today we are beginning another set of Incoterms, that is FOB, free on board. So we will be taking up Incoterms 2020 FOB. My name is Humaira. I regularly give coaching for CDCS aspirants who are appearing for the examination, Certified Documentary Credit Specialists. The examination held twice a year, conducted by LIBF. I give online coachings, and till today, over a decade, at least 500 participants from different banks all over the country have cleared their examinations. Before I start this session on Incoterms, I would also like to share with you that my website, Success to CDCS, will be launched shortly. So for any other information material regarding all the chapters for CDCS examination, the documentation, the questions that appear, mock test, the basket and simulation questions, the video presentations, everything will be available in under single window, Success to CDCS, which will be launched shortly. Meanwhile, today let us start with FOB, Incoterms 2020, which came into existence from January. Now, what does Incoterms stand for? International Commercial Terms. We all know that it relates to the obligations to the buyer and the seller. What are the risks involved? What are the costs involved? Who is responsible for the costs like packing, loading, security costs, terminal charges, and the responsibility? There is a very unique word which we all need to know in Incoterms, that is the delivery point. This delivery point is a very important word because at this point, the risk, responsibility and cost shift from the seller to the buyer. So let us see in FOB what is that is happening. Now there is a big process that takes place from the exporting country to the importing country. There are various stages involved. From the exporter's warehouse, you can see in the picture, it is in Beijing, China. There is the local transportation. You can see the truck there, a beautiful truck. The inland transportation brings the goods from the warehouse of the seller to the Shanghai port, and there the customs clearance, freight forwarder, the logistics, the cargo who is handling, then the terminal charges at Shanghai port. So all this we have to see who is that who is bearing it. And then again there is the ocean freight. It can also be by air, it can also be by road, different modes of transport, by road, land, air, sea. Then finally it arrives in the destination country, Mumbai. Again the customs, unloading charges, import duty and taxes, the local transportation to the destination place of the importer. So this is an entire step that is involved from the exporter to the importer. And so various delivery points are identified, and we have come up with, ICC has come up with 11 Incoterms. E, the letter E, only one Incoterm X work. With letter F, you have 3 Incoterms: free carrier, FCA, FAS, free alongside ship, FOB, free on board. And with C, that is the main carriage paid, you have cost and freight, cost, insurance and freight, CIF. Carriage paid to, carriage and insurance paid to. Then you have the D, the destination terms in the importing country, 3 Incoterms with the letter D. Delivered place, unloaded, delivered, duty paid. So these are the 11 Incoterms which we have to discuss. Already in my previous videos I have discussed about X work, free carrier, free alongside ship. So today we are taking up FOB, free on board. And there's a beautiful word beside FOB written, that is a port, to tell you that it is an on board and it begins with a port. So when I use the word port, what does it mean? FOB is restricted to sea or inland waterway transport. FOB use is restricted to sea or inland waterway transport. It is not to be used for road, rail or air. And this is a very common shipping term, FOB. It is more practical than FAS. It is more practical. So FOB is suitable where exporter has direct access to the vessel for loading. The seller has direct access to the vessel for loading bulk cargoes or non-containerized goods. Non-containerized goods, because containerized goods is difficult to bring near the terminal. They will load it near the freight forwarder's warehouse. So it is FOB is suitable for non-containerized goods. So what does the seller do? See, we have an exporter who is exporting iron ore from Orissa to an importer at Shanghai Steel Factory. The right side you can see Shanghai Steel Factory. So the exporter is in Orissa. He is exporting iron ore from his yard, iron ore yard. So first he will load it in his inland transport. The inland transport could be a truck or a rail which could bring it to the port. He is bringing it to the Visakhapatnam port. So once the iron ore comes to the Visakhapatnam port, the custom people ask for the customs, the freight forwarder, the person who is handling the logistics and the cargo, his fees. Then the terminal charges have to be paid and the goods have to be taken to the vessel. So the seller is responsible for getting the goods from his warehouse to the port and load it onto the vessel. Seller is responsible for getting the goods from the warehouse to the port, load it onto the vessel. So where is the risk and the cost transferred? The risk and cost is transferred to the buyer as soon as the goods have been loaded on board. You can see a red arrow on the pointing to the vessel. Red arrow pointing to the vessel, which shows that the seller is responsible for loading the goods onto the vessel and the risk and cost are transferred to the buyer at this delivery point. This vessel is nominated by the buyer at the named port of shipment, that is Visakhapatnam port. So this new Incoterm rules 2020 for FOB, as I told you, it is inappropriate for container shipment. Because in container shipment, the cargo is given to the carrier at a place which is distant from the port. It could be the seller's premises or the freight forwarder's warehouse. So it is difficult to bring the container to the terminal. That is why it is not appropriate for container shipments. So once it is loaded, then after it reaches the Shanghai port, again everything related to customs, unloading from the port, vessel, import duty, taxes, all that is taken care by the buyer. Again, transportation to a factory, to his steel factory at Shanghai. So let us say 50,000 tons of iron ore are exported from Visakhapatnam, FOB. So how do we write it in our field 45A in MT 700? For 50,000 tons of iron ore, FOB Visakhapatnam port, India, Incoterms 2020. So the buyer knows that the seller provides a free on-board bill of lading at Visakhapatnam port. So what did we understand in this FOB? We find that the seller, the exporter, is responsible at his warehouse for packing the goods, loading for the inland transportation, delivery to the port or the place, then export duty, taxes, security clearance are all done by the seller. Origin terminal charges are borne by the seller. So what is that addition we found from FAS? It is loading on the carriage. Loading, yes. That is important here. So What do you find in FOB? FOB, free on board. It is for a port. So that it is by sea, inland waterway. It is not for road, rail or air. And preferable for bulk cargoes, non-containerized goods. It is inappropriate for container shipments. With this, we have completed FOB. Thank you very much.